Hello, welcome to the Evolve Vets podcast.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Bethany. Together, let's stop revolving and start evolving.
So Christina, welcome to the Evolve Vets podcast.
Thank you.
We're so happy you're here.
I'm excited to be here.
We like to start with intros, and so I'll just let everyone know like how we know each other, because we met probably 7 or 8 years ago. Like it was when I was in my 3rd or 4th year of vet school, and you were working for a company and you're a recruiter and came to Texas A&M, and we formed a relationship. You started at a new company that was a startup, and your energy, you were just like so excited by it. And so I was getting really interested in the startup side of vet med, and you kind of like opened my eyes to all of that. And then graduated, and you hired me, started working for you, and I was practicing doing some recruiting, learning from you. And then you also introduced me to my morning routine, which we've talked about on the podcast. And I'm so grateful for that, because it's completely changed my life. And here we are, like, I don't know, 6 years later since we started that, and I'm still doing it. Yeah. So thank you for teaching me that and inspiring me. And you've inspired me in a lot of other ways, from like your discipline to your energy to all of the creativity that you bring to vet med. So we're very excited to have you on the podcast and let our listeners get to learn from you.
It's so funny. You never know what you're going to say or do that's going to impact somebody else's life in a big way. And I remember reading a book called The Miracle Morning, and I love mornings, and I've always been a morning person. And I remember as a kid waking up super early in the mornings before everybody else. And I just enjoyed that time. And the Miracle Morning just opened my eyes to like how you could systemize that, how you could make that time, pack it full of important things that would just make your whole day better. And so there are probably multiple people in the veterinary industry who have heard me talk about it and then started it. So I can think of one other that was on our team for a while, who I know he started doing Miracle Morning after we talked about it as well. And he would also say like, it's a game changer. It's just so important. And you find your own routine. It's not like any of us does it exactly the way it was in the book, but I think there's something really profound in just starting your day a certain way and setting the tone for the whole day. So I'm glad you're still doing it.
Me too. So I know that you still have a morning routine. How has yours changed over time?
Oh, I think mine, well, it's changed with each child. And, you have to kind of adjust your routine to the family's needs. And I now have one child who is very much like me and automatically wakes up early in the morning, and one child who would prefer not to wake up in the mornings at all. And when she does, you have to like really coax her into a good mood about it. But so it's changed a little bit with them. But I now, because I do have kids, and in order to have quiet time to myself uninterrupted, I get up at 4 every morning, and I start with a huge glass of water. So I read that in a book somewhere once too. I want to say it's The Body Book by Cameron Diaz. You take like these little things, one thing from each book, right? And so I start with like 32 ounces of water first thing when I wake up, just to rehydrate my body. And then I do some journaling. I start with gratitude. And then if there's something that I feel like I just need to write out, I'll write that out as well. Prayer. I spend some time reading the Bible and doing like a daily devotional. And then usually by then I've hit the time limit of when I have to go to the gym. So I'm at the gym by 5 every morning, and have a really great morning crew that's there at 5, and we push each other to work really hard there and sweat every day. And I do it because I love it. I really enjoy it. And I also recently had this experience where I had a really tough day the day before, and I like actively thought that morning as I was starting my workout, okay, this is where I'm going to complete the stress cycle, and what happened yesterday is going to be complete and done and move on. and worked out, and then literally felt like I was walking out of that gym with none of that weight on my shoulders anymore. I had worked that stress out and felt so much better. So yeah, so that's my morning routine. And then once I get back home by 6:30, usually there's at least one child awake, and we're starting the day and showers and breakfast and getting ready for school and work and all that good stuff. So
Oh, that's incredible. So 4 a.m. What time do you go to sleep?
last night I didn't go to bed until 11:30 because we went to see Hamilton, which was amazing. I'm so glad we got to do that. But normally I'm in bed between 9 and 10 usually. So
Okay,
yeah, a good 6 hours of sleep I can manage pretty well for at least a few days, and then I take 2 rest days a week where I try to catch up a little bit on sleep. So yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's it's 4 a.m. is early, but I see why you would need to do that. So, because if that's the only place you can actually carve out the peace time with kids, then you got to do it. And it like, you might think, oh, I'm going to be so drained because I'm waking up so early, but it sounds like it's what fills your cup early in the morning.
By 8 p.m. I'm pretty drained.
Yeah.
But it really does kind of fuel me for the day.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
And the gratitude piece, I think, starting off acknowledging things that you're grateful for first thing in the day. I know everybody says like you should have a gratitude journal and you should make sure to do this. I find that when I don't do it, when I pause doing it, I feel more down. I feel more depressed. When I'm doing it every day, I find myself throughout the day finding things to be grateful for and actively acknowledging that I'm grateful for things. And then when things go wrong, I can actually remind myself to find something to be grateful for in that moment. And it just, if you do nothing else first thing in the morning, I would recommend just getting up and writing down 3 things you're thankful for that day. And it can be as simple as, I woke up this morning. Some days I'm just grateful for the day. I'm grateful for another day. I'm grateful I'm healthy and my kids are healthy. And, it can be a really simple practice. I think people make it way too complicated, and it just really sets your mind in the right place for the day.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I love that you take the time to practice gratitude daily. It really can set your day up for joy. I'm curious how that practice has actually helped you maybe overcome challenges or difficult times in life, right? Because life is gonna life and it gets hard sometimes. So how do you apply it in those scenarios?
It's hard to apply it in the moment. When something is really going wrong, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that, as soon as something goes wrong, I just remember what I'm grateful for and we can go not even close to that. This is something that I'm working on as well. But I do find that every challenge ends up teaching you something and growing you in some way. And ultimately you can find a way to be grateful for even the tough things that you go through. And sometimes it's not until after you've gone through it, right? Really hard things are tough in the moment, and it can be important to just sit in that emotion too and let that emotion be whatever it needs to be. I really do find that outlook, that kind of optimism and being grateful for everything that is positive in life, it just helps you get to the other side of those challenges and to be able to look back at them and not say, man, I was such a victim in that situation, or why did that happen to me? Which you do in the moment. That's the reality. But it helps you get to the next place where you can say, oh, that happened to me, and look what came out of it, and where I am now, despite having been through that, or because of having been through that. So,
yeah, that's a good one.
And I'd love for the audience to get to know you a little bit. Can you go through your journey in vet med?
Sure. Maybe let's take it back actually to first year of vet school, because I joined the VBMA and got so interested in the VBMA and ended up serving as a national officer. And that sparked my interest in business. And so I ended up going across the street to do the MBA program between my second and third year of vet school, which is really cool because I ended up with 2 vet school classes, the one that I started with and the one that I finished with. And in my 4th year, I did a bunch of externships that were business related. So I tracked business, if you will, before there was a business track. But that year, me and one other student did that. I remember that first conversation with you and you said, well, I'm tracking business in my 4th year. And I was like, I'm sorry, what is the real thing? Like,
They're the OG.
yeah, we did that thing and then it became a thing for other people to do. That's awesome. So in my 4th year, I was so lucky to be able to go on some really cool externships that it's really fun to look back now and put these pieces together and see how they fit into my journey over time. So one of them was the home office of VCA out in LA. And I stayed with Dr. Jill Clark and Dr. Bob Murtaugh, who have become mentors for me and have led me into multiple awesome career opportunities over the years. After 4th year, I did an internship in New York City at a VCA hospital. That year, I met Oliver, who is now my husband. I ended up practicing in Pennsylvania for a bit after my internship. Loved the practice there, had amazing mentorship. Still love those practice owners and their family and can't tell you enough great stories about spending time with them. But Oliver was in New York and he was not interested in moving to Pennsylvania. Grew up in New York City. And so I moved back to New York. And when I did that, I ended up in a recruiting role with VCA. So again, connection with Jill Clark ended up getting me into that role. That was an amazing experience because I got to be very heavily involved with the operations team for over 100 hospitals in the Northeast. And I was recruiting doctors for them. So I got to spend a lot of time just talking to doctors and learning what they wanted and what they needed, what was going to make them happy in their work, which then led me to Jill and Bob called again and said, hey, there's this little company in Austin, Texas that is wanting to be big someday and they want to do it right from the beginning and we think you should come talk to them. And so I came down and interviewed and I ended up working for Thrive and I started in the fall. We moved to Austin and then worked there for 7 years and Thrive and Pathway grew into Thrive Pet Healthcare. And we started with, I think there were 5 practices when I joined and almost 400 when I moved on from that. And so when I kind of finished up my time at Thrive, I happened to be at a conference with a good friend of mine and yours, Marissa Brunetti, who we had worked with at Thrive in the beginning. And I said, I think I'm ready for something a little different and was ready to kind of get back into that startup mode again of building something. And she works for a company called Indie Vets, had been there for since the very beginning. And so I joined them almost a year and a half ago now. And it's been a really, really fun, cool ride. So yeah, that's my story, I think.
It's such a cool story. We love having people on the podcast because there's so many different routes you can take as a veterinarian. And so to hear everyone's unique alternative path, I think is really inspiring for no matter where you are. If you're a vet student, if you're a recent grad, if you're a practicing veterinarian who's like, maybe I want to do something else. It's very expansive for them to be able to hear your story.
So many options and so many things I still want to do that haven't even explored yet.
What's on the list?
Oh, what you guys are doing? I think there's so much opportunity in veterinary medicine for women veterinarians to grow into leaders. This profession has been male-led for a very long time, and we're now 80% female coming out of school, and there should be a lot more representation at the top of these organizations. And so I would love to be part of a process of training women, growing them, supporting them, coaching them into the leaders of the next generation of veterinarians. So.
Well, lucky for you, we're going to have a membership that we'd love for you to be a part of so you can help continue to grow and mentor like wonderful leaders like Anna.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be part of that and to continue to grow my skill set with you guys and hopefully at some point be able to really pour into others and help them grow as well.
What do you find most joyous or rewarding about pouring into others? Because it seems to be a passion for you. So what is that?
Yeah. So when I look back I've been out for almost 13 years now. And so there's a couple of different ways to look at that and go, most of the time when somebody says it, I'm like, oh my gosh, when did I get so old? Like, how did that happen? But I think there's still so much opportunity and so much more of my career left in front of me. And when I look back at what has been kind of themes throughout, mentorship has been a huge part of what I've done everywhere I've been. And so with VCA, we started a new graduate mentorship program. That was 10 plus years ago now. And we started it in the Northeast, and grew that into a program that then ultimately got expanded across the country. And so that was a really, really great learning experience for me at how you could take a program and scale it and grow it and continue to learn from the process and evolve the program as you went. So we did that there. And then coming to Thrive, of course, there was a need for new grad mentorship program there. Built that evolved, each year that I was with the organization. And as the organization grew and changed, we needed different mentorship programs there as well. So that was a really great experience to try to be as agile as possible to meet the needs of the growing organization with a different program. And now at IndieVet's been able to build a mentorship program for veterinarians who want to experience relief medicine and help a lot of different practices and learn a lot of different ways to practice. And so we've got a really cool and unique mentorship program here. And I think I love the building part. I love creating and developing a program that I know is gonna continue to grow and evolve. It doesn't need to stay whatever I built in the beginning. I just love being able to see an opportunity and create something that meets that need. In doing that, support a lot of veterinarians in their own growth. And the thing about mentorship is the goal really is not to teach them everything they already know so much, but just to build their confidence in their own ability to practically apply that knowledge. And so I love seeing a veterinarian go from, I'm not so sure that I can do this, to, man, I feel so good about what I did today. And I feel so confident in my ability to do this next time. So I think that's where I get my joy from, is seeing a veterinarian realize their own potential and their own growth and being able to then do things with confidence, knowing that they're good at what they do.
Absolutely. We're so lucky to have you as a member in our community, because you're going to be able to bring all that amazing knowledge to all the women that want leadership or aspire to, elevate themselves in some way. And so we're really lucky to have you on board with us.
Thanks. I'm grateful you guys are doing this, because I'm excited to be part of it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back to when you're talking about building confidence, and maybe can you speak to any trends that you've seen in the industry as you've trained veterinarians, particularly women veterinarians, recent grads, and speak to maybe that confidence level and like, why are we not confident and what happens that makes us confident? How can you get from point A to point B?
Yeah. I think some of the interesting trends, COVID was this massive thing that impacted how veterinarians learned in vet school, right? And so I think there's something to be acknowledged about those years of training that were in the midst of a pandemic, where a lot of it was done online, and a lot of them missed out on the in-person, in-clinic training that they would have gotten otherwise. maybe weren't in groups for the same activities that we would have been in. And so they didn't learn from each other the way we did. And so even the confidence to speak up in those groups, I think a lot of that they're going to have to develop in different environments and in different ways because their learning experience was different. So definitely something to be said for that. One thing I do see new graduates being a lot more confident in is the ability to advocate for themselves and to say, these are my boundaries and this is what the hours that I want to work and the way that I want to work and the environment that I want to work in. And I see them being much more aware of what some of the historical issues in veterinary medicine have been and the reasons for burnout rates to be so high and depression and anxiety rates to be so high. And they're very aware of that and willing to stand up for themselves and for what they need. And that's at least, coming in. I think a lot of times then they get thrown into the fold and we almost, it happens without us realizing it, right? Like we just take on and take on and take on. And one boundary gets pushed and then another boundary gets pushed and then another gets pushed. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, when did I get so burnt out? And I think it just happens that way. And I'm hoping that what we'll also see is us being more aware of that for each other and being able to watch for that in each other. So one thing about the Indie Vets mentorship program and one way that we're trying to really help prevent that is we have a full-time social worker on our team. And so as part of the mentorship program, I actually require each of these new doctors to meet with him multiple times in their first few months so that when you're in a situation that you're feeling burnt out or depressed, it's very difficult, at least it's difficult for me, to reach out to a stranger for help. So I don't want him to be a stranger. I want them to know him, be comfortable with him, be able to reach out to him when they need it. And so I think that's one way that we can help build confidence is to normalize some of these things that we all go through, normalize talking about it, getting help for it. And then be aware of it for one another and call it out when we see that somebody else is going through something or things are becoming more challenging, or if you notice your friend pushing their own boundaries out and taking on more and more and more, just reminding them that that's not necessarily what they want or what they wanted. I think in terms of the confidence piece too, we joke that we're just going to get rid of the sink or swim, the notion of sink or swim. I once talked to a mentor. He said to me, well, we always just like went the route of letting them sink or swim in this practice. And I was like, who wins when they sink? It's not the patients. It's not the clients. It's not that new grad. It's not your practice. So why would you even chance it that you're going to let them sink? So we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to help them learn to swim. That's the point. And so, I think that's really where it can change, is that if we have a different mentality of everybody needs support and we were just talking about continuing to grow, right? And so everybody needs to continue to grow and to learn. And so if we just set that up as the culture that we're all going to continue to grow and learn here, and we're going to support you in growing and learning in your first few months, and it's normal to not know everything. You can't possibly know how to do everything in veterinary medicine. And so here I am to teach you and to support you and to be that safety net for you for the first few months. And beyond that as needed, so that you never feel like you're all alone in this profession. And I think just having that safety net, having that place that you can ask questions, and no question is a dumb question, because I'd rather you ask me the question than get it wrong for a patient and the patient sinks and you sink. Just ask. And so having that psychological safety to be able to ask questions and get feedback in a constructive and supportive way is really the way that you build confidence early on.
Yeah. I love that you're normalizing it, because I think, and I find this in practice because I've recently been going back into practice and practicing more. And I find that maybe I'm not up to date on certain discoveries or new medications that we're using. Or maybe there's just something that when I used to practice, like I'd never done before.
Yeah.
And so it's new, or something that I forget. And I do find myself sometimes when I want to go and ask a question, I'm like, are they going to think I'm dumb? Or like, they're going to be like, oh my God, she doesn't know the answer to this. What kind of doctor is she? And so those feelings are so real, but I just rationalize and I'm like, look, it's going to be better for the patient. And I want to be 100% sure I know. And I didn't always have another doctor when I was practicing, and now I do. And so if have the luxury of working with another doctor or a few other doctors at the same time, like, I don't care if I'm annoying or look stupid in a certain situation. I'd rather just learn and like get to know the answer. And so hopefully we can normalize that a little bit more.
Yeah. And thank goodness you've been able to get to that place of like, what's best for my patient.
Right.
Not me guessing and hoping that I'm right, but just asking and making sure that I am doing the right thing. And you and I have that in common, that recently going back into practice, I think my hiatus was quite a bit longer than yours. But I feel the exact same things that you do every single time. You know, I'm a little bit anxious to go in there and to do it, or a lot anxious, but I'm getting better. And I have the same concerns about asking questions. And I'm so lucky that my boss and my coworkers are super supportive and encouraging, and they don't tell me if my questions are dumb. They just give me an answer and help me do the right thing for the patient. And so, we all need that safety net or that support system. And still 13 years out, I need that safety net and that support system. And so you never grow out of that.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing this example. You're obviously a very superb leader and you stand out as a mentor. So the other part I'm hearing is you're also so eager to continue growing, and like joining our community as a senior leader is so special. And sometimes when I interact with new grads, or I have friends who are leaders of different practices, we commonly can see that fear of reaching out or like wanting help, and maybe bringing up that conversation a little too late for burnout, or maybe the medicine, like the example that y'all just used. So I guess like, what are your thoughts on that? And like, how do we help create a safe environment for everybody, from, somebody who's been in the field for, 55 years and is running their own place and an amazing mentor and leader, all the way down to maybe those people in vet school that are starting to study for the NAVLE right now?
Yeah. I think we all experience imposter syndrome, and we experience it when in terms of our leadership, we experience it in terms of our medicine. It never stops. And so I still find myself, thank you for the compliments. I don't think of myself as a superb leader, but I'm so grateful for that compliment. But I think the only way you can be a great leader is to acknowledge that you are just as in need of growth, of development, of support, of answers and of help as everybody on your team. And so modeling that, if you're a leader, model how you ask for help. Just because I'm supposedly the boss doesn't mean that that I know more about anything than anybody else on my team, or that certainly not that I know more about everything than anybody on my team. I can learn from every single one of them. And so I should be asking them their opinions and for their help and guidance just as much as they might ask me. My job as a leader is to remove roadblocks for them and to make their jobs easier, and to make sure they know that they can come to me with any question, anytime, any need. And that, my job is to support them through. Mistakes have to be okay.
Right.
And we all have to be able to make mistakes, learn from them, and move on from them. And so I've had people that reported to me who tease me that I just don't even remember the things that they've done, and bad things. I think I remember most of the good stuff, generally speaking, but like if they've made a mistake, most of the time they bring it to me before I even notice that a mistake has been made. Usually they've already solved it, or they've got a solution in mind and they just want to make sure that what they're going to do is okay. And then it's done and we move on. And maybe there's even something that the whole team can learn from it. And so if that's okay, let's share it so that we can all learn. And I made a mistake this week that I then had to call out and share with the team and say, like, let's not do it that way again. That was my fault, you know? But I think that normalizing mistakes is so, so key. It is really important to want to continue to grow and to never feel like you're the smartest person in the room, I guess.
How do you coach people that are struggling with that letting it go piece?
Oh, Elsa, we sing Frozen.
I did see that your bracelet has a Lion King
It
pendant on it. So
yeah.
it sounds like you're a Disney girly.
I'm a fan of the movies and certainly the messages in the movies. And my kids love Disney movies, so I watch a lot of Disney movies. And in Moana 2, I think her name is Lotto. She's the one that builds the boats, right? And there's a song where I like took the lyrics out and actually sent it to the team here recently, because she says, life is just failing and learning and then death. And I just like the fact that she's just singing about it, that's like, you know, this will be my motto. Life is failing and learning and then death. And she's constantly like, you know, breaking her models and trying to build them better. And wow, wouldn't it be awesome if we could all just have that perspective that, yeah, that's what life is about. We're just going to fail a whole bunch. We're going to learn from those failures. And eventually we're going to die. Yeah, I don't know. We don't have to talk about the death part, but like, you know, life is failing and learning, and that's growth. And that's, and so, yeah, Disney has a lot of cool hidden messages there, I guess.
Of course they do. Yeah.
That are fun to apply to real life. Yeah.
That's awesome. What is it like being a mom and, you know, doing all the other amazing things that you do?
Oh, what's it like being a mom? It's amazing. They teach me so much every day. Talking about wanting to grow, there is nothing and no one that will inspire you to grow more than your children, because you're constantly getting it wrong. I mean, every day I'm saying or doing something that I, 2 seconds later think, oh, I wish I hadn't said it that way. Or, I wish I didn't have that level of attitude about it. Or I'm going to hear that level of attitude come out of my 3-year-old's mouth again tomorrow. It's a really cool experience to have them constantly teaching you and then utilizing that in other aspects of your life too, and figuring out how to apply the same things to raising kids as to, working as a veterinarian or working as a leader in an organization or a recruiter or whatever you might be. All of those lessons that have to do with people interactions apply across the board. And so, my kids teach me every day and humble me every day.
So how do you, some of the feedback we hear is, because Bethany and we don't have kids yet, but we do we have some sort of ritual every morning. We do our morning routine or something at night, something like some sort of practice to keep us grounded. Mm-hmm. And you do that as a mom, as a wife, as a professional. And so how do you find the time to do that? Because what we hear from some people is, I'm just way too busy. Like I can't, there's no way I could make time to do that. I'm just constantly busy.
There is a limited amount of time in each day, and each of us has to figure out what we're going to prioritize. So if you're telling me you don't have time in the morning, is it because you want to sleep that extra hour, or you feel like you need that extra hour of sleep, right? So, okay, you're prioritizing that extra hour or 2 or 3, whatever it is, of sleep. That's fine. That's your choice. What I'm telling you is I think that this makes my day better than, and not even I think, I know, because the days that I choose sleep, the days that I prioritize another hour or 2 of sleep, and then I wake up and try to start my day, the whole day is behind. It just, I cannot seem to get into the rhythm of what the day is supposed to be like when I don't start my day with what it's supposed to be. And at the same time, I have to have a lot of grace and a lot of flexibility, because this morning I picked up my devotional and started to read it, and my 3-year-old walked in, and it was like, okay, well, I'm just not going to get through this part of the reading today. That's all right. No big deal. And then it doesn't always feel that easy. Some days I'm like, oh, this was my time and I really wanted it and you guys took it from me. But if I can take a step back and say, look, even if I only got 15 minutes to myself, I got some time to myself. I got to do it, something that I needed to do. And tomorrow will be different. So
I think it's a great call out, because it's easy to be intimidated by the idea of, oh my gosh, to be like Christina, I have to like wake up at 4 a.m. and, do all these things before I go work out, or maybe even committing to our process, which ideally is like, 20 to 30 minutes in the mornings or in the evenings, if that works better for you. Like some people work overnights, like totally open to that. Find what works best for you. But oftentimes what we'll see is that gap or it's almost like an intimidation factor, which creates a gap in like believing that they can do it. Right. And so I guess like, how would you, if you were talking to somebody like that, how would you recommend that they kind of close that gap?
You know what I love the most about the Miracle Morning was that he explained all of the things that you should do. And then he took it down to this, like, you can do each of these things for 1 minute and it's still really good for you. So if you can find 5 minutes in your day, which basically just means wake up to an alarm before you think your kids are going to wake up. Because if you wait until the kid cries and wakes you up, your 5 minutes is gone. But if you can wake up just 5 minutes before your kid cries and needs you, then you can do these things for 5 minutes. And that's a start. That's somewhere. That's writing down 1 or 2 things that you're grateful for and getting your mind in the right place first thing in the morning, whatever it is for you. And I guess what I would encourage is like, you don't need my routine. Like it's my routine and it works for me. You need your routine and what is going to work for you, and start super small. If it feels impossible, start with one thing for 1 minute, and work your way up. And over time, when you see that, oh, this one thing really works for me and that's going really well, I think I'm going to try to add this other thing. Okay. And that's going really well. I think maybe I want to add this other thing. And maybe I try that and decide that doesn't really work that well for me. And okay, that's fine. Like your routine isn't the same as my routine, but your routine works amazingly for you and the same for you. And, and so I would say it's more about the habit, and building those positive habits than it is about what you're doing or exactly how long you're doing it for.
I think when you told me about Miracle Morning, we were maybe at dinner or happy hour or something. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to this. Like I felt called to do something. So I have some sort of regular routine to refresh. And so the next morning, I think we had an early morning. We had to wake up at 4 or 5 or something. And I set my alarm for 10 minutes before and I followed the 5-minute thing. Yeah. I meditated for a minute. I wrote down my gratitude, my affirmations for the day. And then I did like jumping jacks and push-ups for like a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt better just from doing that.
And it was that 5 minutes that then hooked you for 6 years.
Exactly.
And it has grown over time and evolved and, into what works for you. And I imagine it'll keep evolving. So like I said, it has changed for me a little bit at different stages of my life when different things were important to me, or, what I felt like I was capable of at that time. And so, do something and give yourself some grace. Like just try it. Yeah.
So the grace thing. And earlier you also mentioned, we were talking about confidence, and you mentioned that veterinarians are trying to be super great at this thing or that thing. And so I guess I'd like to talk about we're trying to do all the things and be all the things for all the people. Yeah. And so how do you deal with that when the reality is you probably just have to accept that you're going to need to give yourself grace every single day, because you're not going to be the best mom, the best wife, the best veterinarian, like the best at like working out every day. You can't do all of those things at the highest level every day.
Of course I can, Anna. What are you talking about? Yeah, I think most veterinarians are used to being really good at everything they try to do. And when life really happens, you realize that I can't be everything to everybody all the time. And what I'm currently trying to work on is just being more aware of what I'm trying to be good at in this moment. So if I'm with my kids, trying to be a good mom when I'm with my kids and not thinking about what I need to do next for the next person or the next responsibility or the next thing. And that's really hard. I'm preaching to myself when I say this. I'm not good at this at all, because I'm normally, my mind is racing through, and then I got to get this ready for dinner, and then I got to get this ready for work for tomorrow, and then I mean it's a constant to-do list, if you will. But I think if I can find the presence to be able to pause and say, what am I supposed to be really good at right now? And just try to be really good at that thing right now. And then at the end of the day, look back and say, well, I was really good at least one thing today. Because I really struggle with feeling like I'm not enough for my family. Like I'm not enough in my job. Like I'm not enough with church, and I'm not enough with God in my relationship. And all of these things can just feel like so much pressure. And I think what I have tried to do is just say, you are enough, and I am enough, and whatever I've done today is enough. And sometimes just those affirmations and just saying it out loud, it does help. It sounds kind of silly, to say something like that out loud, but even just in my head, but just reminding myself that I don't have to be everything to everyone, but I am enough for the people that need me, and whatever I did today was enough.
I love that. The affirmations, sometimes it does feel silly at first to say them or to write them down. But if it is what you're trying to call in, then it's a worthwhile activity, because if you do that, what I've noticed journaling over 6 years is that I used to have different affirmations that now I'm like, oh, I've got that. And so it might feel really awkward at first, and you're like, I'm not this at all. But you still write it every single day. Yeah. And then eventually subconsciously you start to believe that, because it's this mantra that you have. And so it's rewiring your brain to believe that. And then just the reality. I think when you talk about it with other people and normalize it, you're like, oh, I'm doing the best that I can in every moment. I'm actually probably crushing it in a lot of areas too.
Yeah. I think too, another area that women struggle with is our bodies, and not feeling like we look enough like we're supposed to look, or be enough like we're supposed to, whatever. Right. And I remember after having my second child, I found myself feeling really discouraged by how my body looked and felt, and what I was or was not capable of. One day I was standing in front of the mirror, and I thought, maybe I'll just try reminding myself of everything that my body has done and what it's capable of. And I did that. And I like held my stomach that had held my baby, and said, thank you for what you have done and what you're capable of. And I really feel like I have a very, maybe uniquely positive perspective on my body at this point. It's not because I work out a lot, or because I have any specific body type or anything else. I think it really is because I have intentionally taken the time to look in a mirror and thank my body for what it has done, what it has brought into my life, what it's capable of, the fact that our bodies can carry humans and bring them into this world is such a miraculous thing, but it's also just this amazing thing that our bodies are capable of doing that. And I think we often miss that in looking for what we want our bodies to look like or what we want them to be capable of. And so it's just an example of how utilizing those affirmations and saying things out loud to yourself can just change your whole perspective. And then, then you look back a few years later and I'm like, wow, where did I get that really good? What do they call
Body
it?
positivity.
Body positivity. Yeah. From literally saying positive things to my body in the mirror. Yeah.
It absolutely helps. I love that you say that because for me, the thing that I love to do is actually when I get a massage is while they're massaging an area, I just like pour love into like, oh, my shoulders, like, thank you so much. Like you carry a lot of stress for me.
Yeah.
Like you make me so strong, or like my arms, like, thank you. You know, I'm so thankful for the things that my hands get to do, like surgery and, you know, all these incredible things. So I think what we pour into our bodies and the messages that we share with one another are absolutely true. And I love that you also brought up the making it normal, right? So a part of our process is the meditation part of our process is actually understanding like what are those limiting beliefs, like I'm not enough, or I have to be perfect to be loved, right? Whatever it might be. And then the evolution or elevation part of our journey and our second step actually really leans into this, what is the feeling that I want to create? And if that's like, I love my body and I'm grateful for my health, or, you know, fill in the blank, like I'm good, I'm worthy, I'm beautiful, I'm smart. Like the list can go on. And whether it's journaling it out or taking part in a meditation. And then our step 3 is like embodying that. So how do you actually show up and say, okay, I'm going to act out what it feels like to love my body today. And how do you do that? You know, like, is it going to the gym or, you know, wearing this cute dress that like makes you feel beautiful, you know, simple things like that actually lead to the change over time.
And why is it hard for us to say, I am beautiful, when my 3-year-old could walk into the room and I'd be like, oh, baby, you're so beautiful. Aww. You know, it's so easy to say it to a little girl. And yet somehow our adult brains can't say it anymore. I could look at pictures of myself when I was 3 and say this, look at that beautiful baby girl, you know? But why can't I say that to the almost 40-year-old version of myself, right?
There's so much conditioning.
Yeah.
It's as you're talking, I'm thinking it's so silly that we get caught up in like, oh my God, I have cellulite, when like we like birth humans, like create and birth humans. And so why does our mind get stuck on one thing when it's like, holy shit, there's this like miracle happening. So it's also like, it's not woo woo to be like, let's do affirmations. It's like facts too.
Yeah. It's facts. The things that you're writing down. Science. Yes. So isn't that funny that like veterinarians are totally evidence-based and want to do everything based on the data and the science, except when it comes to all of this like mental work, right? So I think it's really key for us to be able to point that stuff out, that look, there's data that says that this works and that this is a way to become more mentally healthy. And that's what we all want. So when new grads are coming in and they're setting their boundaries and they want this work-life balance, and it's because they want to avoid the mental health issues that so many other veterinarians have faced. And so that's great. But also, what are your habits? What are your mental health activities that you're doing for yourself? What are you doing to love your body today? What are you doing to love your mind today? What affirmations are you giving yourself every morning that are going to help you to be the best version of you and to help prevent those mental health issues? So what you guys are doing is amazing, and it's going to help so many people.
Well, thanks for inspiring us. So one question that we always ask is about values. And we believe that everyone has a different version of success. And so there's not one pathway that we're teaching of like, okay, you're successful when XYZ. It's really values based. And so you take the time to identify your values. And our theory is that you will be more fulfilled and less burnt out if you're spending your time on the things that you value that fill your cup. So what are your values and how have you designed your life and your career around them?
I read Dare to Lead by Brene Brown a few years ago. And the first time I read it, I like tried to do the core values activity and like narrow it down. And it took me a year.
I can relate. Same here.
And a year later, I was going through the exercise again with another group, and I had been thinking about this and trying to get there. And still, it took me a few weeks of going through it with this next team of like, okay, what are my core values? Like 2, I'm supposed to get down to 2. And I did. And I keep going back to them, and they're 100% true now as well. So I think it was probably good that I took that time to really land on 2 that are really important to me, but they were love and making a difference. And I think a lot of it was questioning, it was almost imposter syndrome of my values of like, love can't be a core what a cop out. Like how love is your core value. That's super sappy. When I really look at how I spend my time and what I think is most important to me, and what do I want to be remembered for, even when all is said and done. I want the people who knew me to know that I loved them. I want them to have felt loved every time I was with them. I want to have poured love into people who didn't feel that they were worthy of love or hadn't been loved before. And making a difference for me, I think when I look at the programs that I've worked on and the things that I have been a part of, it is because I want to make a difference in this profession for you guys, for the next generation of veterinarians, for the next generation. Most of the kids in my son's class say they want to be veterinarians when they grow up. How do we make this a profession that they still want to be in when they find out exactly what it's about? I want them to find out exactly what it's about and be like, yeah, I still really want to do that, So making a difference in people's lives and individuals' lives, but also in whatever space I'm in for the whole.
So Marissa, also a very successful businesswoman veterinarian, is your evolved bestie.
Yes.
How do you guys support each other? I mean, I'd love to hear your conversations about how you help each other make decisions and support each other.
Truth, like really just being able to be honest with somebody and know that they're going to call you out when you're not doing things that are aligned with your values, or when you're not being who you want to be, or not looking at something the way you really could be looking at it, right? Or just our attitude, a lot of those things we have to like call each other out and say like, hey, you're not in the right headspace about this, and what's it going to take to get you to where you need to be. So being able to just be really honest and trust that when the other one is calling us out for something, I think just being able to trust that, oh, she's doing that because she loves me and because she really wants the best for me, and because she wants to do this with me, because we're in this together and it's a partnership. And so let's make sure that we're both at our best as much as we possibly can be, or that we pick up the slack when the other one isn't at their best and can't be. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
I know.
I love that. I mean, that's the goal when having an evolved bestie, right? It's like that you can really be vulnerable, be open, and have them to like love you through it all. And like that consistency is just like beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that vulnerability piece is so key. And I'm the worst at vulnerability. I'm really working hard on that piece to be able to say, I need help, or I need to be able to express something right now, or I need to tell you how I feel. That's another place that I'm learning so much from my kids. It is so beautiful how much of that they learn in school now. That emotional intelligence has become this key piece of learning. So I think we're going to see really incredibly amazing leaders come out of this next generation because they're getting that skill set early on, whereas we're all trying to develop it now.
I love it. Well, is there anything else that you feel called to talk about or share with the audience? Anything that we didn't cover today?
I think I would just encourage early career veterinarians to intentionally foster those relationships. When you meet somebody who you feel like, man, I'm just really aligned with this person on a lot of things, or I can learn a lot from this person, or make it a point to reach out to them regularly and schedule time with them. And even if it's just time to talk, what's the worst they can say? I'm sorry, I don't have time right now. Like, okay, but do it. And those are the things. It's the connections and the relationship. And that is how I have grown in my career, not because I've done anything amazing, but because people have seen potential in me at different times and have seen that maybe I could be helpful to somebody else or something else at some point. Yeah, just encourage that community building, that networking. If you know somebody who could be a mentor for you, just ask, and start to grow that relationship. So
that's brilliant advice. I mean, that's also how our careers grew, as well as from the people who we cultivated relationships with and believed in us and gave us a chance to do something that maybe otherwise we wouldn't have had the opportunity for. Yeah. And it's also why we created the Evolved Vets and the community platform we have, so that there's even more opportunities to meet other women in vet med from all different roles across the country, wherever you are. Maybe you're moving to a new city and you can connect with someone, or maybe you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so like, this person seems to have this job that I think I'm really interested in. I'd love to learn more from them. And then like you said, get on calls. Like you and I still keep a monthly call so that we can keep up with everything. Yeah. And I mean, I've found that so valuable. So I think it's great advice.
Yeah.
And then we'll end with, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I think so. We talked about people kind of giving us a chance and believing in us. And so the best advice I could give, I think, or, what has happened for me is that somebody said, I believe you can do this. And so telling yourself, I believe I can do this, and just trying. I think a lot of times we think we have to be perfect or know exactly how to do something before we even go in and try to do it. And that stops us a lot. And I'm still trying to tell myself that again, like lots of big dreams that I'm like, I would love to do this, and I just don't feel confident that I can succeed at it. Right. So just believe in yourself and believe in your own abilities, and believe in others too, and tell them that, because that has been huge for all of us in our development, is somebody just saying, I think you can do this. You should come do this for me, because I think you could do a great job at it. So giving other people those opportunities and reminding yourself that you're capable of more than you think.
Great advice.
That's amazing. Oh, what a fun interview. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us in my apartment and our podcast studio. And
let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you back, and eager to see you on the platform.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Christina. Until next time, let's stop revolving and start evolving.